Good morning and welcome to today's live show. Just a quick note, we have those new updated monthly expected moves and weekly expected moves over on Patreon. $7 to join right now, but also we do have the course, right? If this is a confusing time for you and maybe you just want to learn a little bit more, we have the 80% off the full technical analysis course. That does end at the end of May. So it's gotta be May is the time where you gotta grab that. But hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Hopefully you got your cup of coffee ready because this week is going to be a good one. We do see an outlook of data down the line that is pretty crazy, starting off today with ISM Services PMI. Not a ton going on for Tuesday, but we will on Wednesday get that dreaded FOMC going into initial jobless claims and everything like that. Looks like the big day to pay attention to is Wednesday. And what is the market shaping up to at that point? As of right now, the market's showing excuse me, that it is in an extremely positive trend. We can see that just from pulling up a 2-hour chart and seeing just how positive this damn thing is. And we see going back that we see a lot of things can happen in this area. We are within that block, right? That block over here that says, hey, we need to pay attention to how we behave. So far, the behavior is it's peeking its head above that center, which just tells us we should be aware of pullbacks that can actually head higher, or pullbacks even down to deeper prices that can actually head to the upside later on, looking for potential 2-hour divergence to actually show its face. Now, there is some looming risk. We talked about the dollar. We've talked about volatility. Being able to curl up the signal, by the way, let's go look at that for just a moment. We see the 2-hour was able to curl up, not able to go positive just yet. This is why we potentially have a pullback coming, right? We need to see if we can actually keep this 5-day moving average for VIX. But for the most part, confirming that signal, this signal can turn around the daily chart, but in the environment we're in right now, we don't see the same things from the SPY at the same time. If you do go over to, say, like the futures here, and you look at, say, 4-hour charts, right? We like to look at 4 hours here for the SPX 500. You will start to see a different story. You'll start to see those divergences. So it says be aware that volatility can kick in, but it is still in the regular cash market overall looking like a pullback is the more likely scenario at this point. We see how positive that 4-hour has been. Do you know the last time that the 4-hour was actually positive? Do you know where we were? We were here. We were at all-time highs, right? Creating that divergence that we were talking about on the daily scale. So for the time being, we can see that this is much different than all of this, even this, even this. Why? Because we are positive. That higher low came in for that 2-hour. Looks pretty nice so far. As of today, if you want those daily expected moves, they will be in the bottom right corner for the SPY and the QQQs. We do see that the 30-minute is overall showing forms of divergence here on the RSI, forms of divergence across kind of elongated for the MACD. So we want to see that maybe in the near price action. This means that if it really wants to leak out as much time for this week as possible, you could see it curl down to here. We could curl back up to here. We could finally see that 2-hour pullback. We could explode higher into Friday and then end up seeing Friday be the time where we actually make a what? A 2-hour divergence that actually says like, hey, and maybe the volatility shows us the same thing at the same time, saying, hey, now's the time for the bigger pullback, right? These are the kind of things that we're looking out for. But if things continue to curl up, just note you are overall still in a squeeze-like environment. So if things curl up, expect it to leak higher, right? As long as it's in positive territory, we should be overall paying attention to what? If things curl up. Upside, the next high, and the time that we don't make the next high might be the lower high that gives you that little bit of hint. All right, guys, hopefully we're doing good today. Hopefully my mic's working or else that'd be bad. Hope you had a good weekend. I hope you did too, Sebastian. Thank you so much for the two there. Jonna coming in today with her little woo girl icon, maybe. I don't know. I can't see it fully, but it looks pretty good. It looks like we have a, what is Miguel? Miguel, do you have a puppet? Well, you know, that's fine. As long as you're controlling the puppets, that's good. Don't be a puppet. No. Miguel, good morning to you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Hopefully you guys had a good weekend too. I had a great one. I had a great weekend. We got, the funniest thing is, you always think it's nice. For some reason, a bunch of my family members, you always love this. Like, I just think you should, when your family takes you out to lunch multiple times in like 3 days, man, it feels good. And you know what they did every single time, which is just class act? They go, don't worry about it. I took them to lunch like a couple weeks ago, and they go, don't worry about it. I got the bill. And I'm like, oh God, just saving that money. Saving that money, man. You know what I'm saying? Can I have the QQQ moves? Pretty pleased with the cherry on top. The QQQ moves are down in the bottom right corner if you need the daily expected moves. We can flash over to the Q. Let's do this real quick for people coming in. Let's just get a little shot here of the weekly expected moves. 581.92 for the SPY. 551.60 to the downside for the SPY. That's why we're seriously paying attention to here, right? This would be the easiest thing. I think this is the easiest setup for the week, and this is why I talked about it yesterday. If you see something that's kind of like we don't necessarily see something surprising, but we see it overall pulling back with good structure, and then we dink into here and we just curl back up. Look at that trade going into, say, Tuesday. Right, look at that trade go, or well, I guess that would be a week from now. Right? I might have elongated it too much here. But if we can see some kind of formation like this on the 30-minute, actually, it would be more on the 30-minute. We would see that leak down, fill that cup, right? Come down into this area, fill that cup, get a little bounce. You see the structure, right? Left head, right shoulder. We shoot this thing down. Maybe we make a little something here, and then on Friday we start to build back, and we could see upside going into later the next week. That would be fantastic. I think that would be the easiest trade setup for this. But if you want to go look at the Qs real quick, I know we haven't been paying too much, right? We're just looking at the direction of the spine, understanding that the Qs are going to be a similar thing. A little bit more strength, I would say. Yeah, I would say a little bit more opportunity to get to this place. So pretty good strength here from the Qs. 504.27. Good earnings for the Qs overall, right? At least good reaction to earnings. Whatever the earnings was, hey, the reactions were pretty good. So 504.27 to the upside. We have 473.39 to the downside. Daily expected moves for today. These will change, so make sure you're coming to the live video, or not the live video. Make sure you're coming to the YouTube video later tonight so we can give that to you. We will be live in the last hour of the day today, just briefly, just mainly to watch the close, right? Reading into what could happen going into the next session. 495.23 to the upside, 482.43 to the downside. Not a ton of implied volatility, a decent amount. Right, I would say more than in a bull market. You have more volatility implied here than, say, just a bull market where, you know, the IV is like 14% or 16 to 14% for the Qs. You're still sitting at like, I think 24%, maybe something like that as of when we made these ranges. So just be aware of that, but there's the moves you got. You can see purple on the right. I know red's probably not the best color. We should maybe change that, but we're going to keep it the same. We've had it the same for a long time. As of right now, what should we expect? Well, where's the 30-minute? The 30-minute is in positive territory. So there's a couple of things we need to look for today. And we can do it on the Qs, right? It's going to be the same thing on the SPY. There's a couple of things we're looking for, right? Do we actually come down and fill that cup? Do we see that bounce back up? And do we see the 30-minute be able to roll down again, right? This is how you roll down to those lower prices. And then from here, you would see the similar thing, right? We would break through this zone, and then we'd retest in it. If this is really going to get ugly and everyone's trying to call, oh, this is some kind of crash moment, it's definitely possible. But you notice how my tone completely changed as we took back that center point for a lot of the resistance zones that we're in. It's a very, very good thing. So we have to more so pay attention to this. I know everyone's probably excited for something like this to happen. If that doesn't happen, what if we do this and then do this? Right? What if we just curl right back up? So we're going to look for the confirmation of the 30-minute going to the upside. We're going to look for weakness down in these areas as far as momentum to the downside, because bullish trades are overall going to be the easier thing in this kind of environment for the time being until we see something flip again. We're still overall in that area where it's like, hey, this isn't necessarily bull. You're in the area where you're more still figuring it out, and there still could be a battle within this. So I'd expect kind of a little bit of anything. That means, you know, this can go sideways in this area. We weren't saying sideways down here, right? We weren't saying sideways down here. We weren't really saying sideways right here. We're now starting to say sideways. Sideways, down to up, or big trap up to down. That's how you overall do these things. So good stuff. It's a pretty good looking market for the time being. Very positive, so all you do is pay attention if the positivity continues. And if you get a pullback down to 550 for the SPY, say, sweet. Rise and shine, Samuel. Markets expected China news. Didn't get it. Expecting bloody market most of the week. Back up on Friday, then back Monday. Just my thoughts. Hey, that's okay. Your timing would not be terrible, right? We just kind of timed that out, and if you look at the 30-minute chart and you kind of just time out maybe a general direction of how this would overall go, you would say, okay, we come down to here by like 11, then we start to bounce into the end of the day, and then people get caught and it drops down again. And then we're able to see some kind of downside move going into Tuesday, Wednesday. Then we start to build back up over time into Thursday. And then maybe we see some resistance come in here. And then on Friday, we start to head in that upward direction. And what if you just have this kind of look at the end of the week? Well, that'd be a good thing, right? Overall, pullbacks would be a good thing. If we start to get excited and do things like this, it would say, be a little cautious. I don't think it means short, right? You do not sometimes the best decision. Sometimes it's very difficult to short, even if the market is going to pull back, right? Sometimes you're in the environment where it's much easier to say, I'm shorting in a way of just staying out of the market for a moment and waiting for my pullback. I'm using patience, right? You don't have to make money every single day. You can make a good trade today, sell it in a couple days, then you can wait a couple days, see the easy setup again, and then you can take the trade again, right? We don't need to be trying to do things 24/7. How is Amazon affected by the news? Amazon is one I wanted to check on. Look at this thing. Amazon is calling more weakness than a lot. The 30 minutes still relatively positive, right? But we can see turndowns from this area, at least a little bit below this area, not necessarily a good thing. So the 2-hour chart's what we're watching here. Very important to see if we can actually confirm this. This means that for Patreon members, if this is confirming on the 2-hour, where am I paying attention for Amazon? The weekly expected move. Wherever that weekly expected move is at, right? I'm going to be paying attention to that, right? Because if this 2 hour is going to have any strength behind it, that means it gets down to here. Everyone gets very bearish on it. This still remains close to the center line and curls up and violates all those divergences. That would be fantastic. That's how it remains bullish. Because if you don't do that, then you're at risk of the 30-minute going extremely negative on the MACD, right? And then you can see that lip come in and just curl to the downside. So we don't necessarily want to see that for Amazon. We want Amazon to do well, right? Maybe, I guess. Depends on how you look at it. I mean, whether you're short or long, I guess it depends. But yeah, this is a 2-hour divergence. It does say that the daily chart can cross down here, and the daily is not positive. So for Amazon, compare Amazon right now to the market. Amazon overall has seen good things, but hasn't seen that extension to really go test that. What did we say? Like 200 is what I wanted to see a test of. And we didn't get it, right? Even with the divergences, it's a great move. It's just you didn't get it. Okay, so if this is going to turn down right now and you see this daily cross, ooh, you might be revisiting here. And that's going to be a big issue. Now, those are all scary things to be aware of, but are those very probable right now in the environment we're in with the type of news that we could get? What's going to happen next? Is Trump going to raise the tariffs to 400, 500, 600? Like, what's the bad news that could come? Well, I think there's some things that could happen, right? There's some things that could happen, especially when we look at that 10-year yield, right? If the 10-year yield is able to scale up dramatically, maybe that puts a damper on what? The housing sector, and maybe the housing sector starts to vomit here. We'll be paying attention because this didn't go positive yet. So you have housing not going positive, Amazon not going positive, and the SPY going positive in the MACD. So you're just in an area where it would be a lot of things are possible. A lot of things are possible, and to bank on one piece of good news or bad news without actually knowing that a good news or bad news is coming is more so something that would be guessing. We're not trying to guess. We're just letting the market tell us what's up. If the market remains positive here and then curls up, it's most likely going to be some kind of positive little bit of news that starts circulating. And then if it creates a divergence and turns down and loses the 5, and we start to see a big drop, then you're going to see the bad things, right? Right? If we do something like this, and then you see it start to fall back below that 5 and then use it as resistance, okay, now we know there's potential bad news coming. All right? We just let the market do what the market wants to do. Tariffs on the media. I like it. Good morning. Hey. If you woke up this morning, say thank you. Say thank you. Another day, another beautiful day to be a part of this world, another beautiful day to try to do some good things for you, for your family, for the people around you, for friends around you. All kinds of good things can happen if we're able to just wake up in the morning, get out of bed, maybe brush our teeth so we're not stanky when we're talking to other people, those kinds of things. But say thank you for being alive. It's a good time. My daughter woke up this morning, chose violence, gave her a milky, and she chose to be the sweetest thing ever this morning. It was super funny. She was a nuisance right away. And then she gets her milky. She's like, "Oh, I'm good." I'm like, "Meow, I knew it. I knew it." Women, right? No. I don't know what to do. I don't have any guidance from Lotto Stock. He limited his plays to Discord. Shit, Richard. You want to pool some money together? She nails. I'm telling you, man. Chose freaking violence this morning. It's crazy. She's just yelling. My wife was like, "Oh," I literally came up because I like to look at stocks right when I wake up, and then I come back upstairs, and my wife just goes, "Okay." Like, she's just yelling at her, "Okay." Uh, so interesting that movies are now 100% taxed outside US as Netflix hits all-time highs. Seems like it was intentional. Tax 100%. Well, for the most part, uh, you have to look at things that go with the agenda. And this is kind of a weird point to make, but you have to look at things that actually go with the agenda of certain people, right? So, really, really rich people, whatever goes with their agenda is probably going to perform well in the stock market. So, what was the big thing that everyone was talking about that those big globalists were saying? Hey, you will own nothing and be happy. Owning nothing is in what categories? Would you say it includes Netflix? Do you own all of the movies on Netflix? No. So therefore, that company is probably going to do very, very well during times where no one's trying to clamp down on, say, the globalists, right? Say the big people that want you to own nothing. Netflix is a blatant example of own nothing and be happy. I do not have Netflix. I download it when there is one show that I would like to watch. I'm not going to sit there and scroll through Netflix for 3 hours like you always do and don't find anything entertaining. All right, let's get back into this, though. The volatility, we see that this is able to go positive. Notice the last time it was able to go positive right here, we did see a big, big spike. And notice this about volatility for the time being. You do not have the reversal signals on the RSI. You do on the MACD. So this is justified, but this is actually more justified in my opinion. This is how we potentially get to that 21.51, right? This is the area I'm really paying attention. So whether it wants to climb over time here, remain in a positive trend and climb and remain in that positive trend and climb, well, then I'm going to be looking for the 2-hour to come down to that level. As of right now, the 30-minute kind of suggests here, this is going to fall down, suggesting that we could see some kind of upside for the SPY, especially if we go fill that gap for volatility. So let's just be aware of that. I got to turn some. Why? I'm behind already. I can't believe I woke up this early and I'm still behind. VIX below 25 bullish today. I think I'd have to agree if you see that thing, especially confirming down below that 5 again. It's really looking like we're not going to fill that cup. Let's see here. I think you gotta. Yeah, I think you gotta do this. What? Okay, yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good. Okay. I thought the numbers looked funny. What? My investment in Target's down 1%. I'm out. I'm out. IWM 30-minute divergence confirmed. IWM, very important to pay attention to IWM. Pretty sure a bunch of things are adding up to what IWM has some earnings to be aware of, I believe, this week. I'm not someone who pays heavy attention to earnings or anything like that, so go find it out. But for the time being, yes, you do have forms of, you would say, divergence, but I want you to see this. You just violated this one, right? So you might be looking at, a different style of chart or something like that. But if I'm looking at the 30-minute and I see all of this, and then that goes down and it fails, right? And it fails, and I'm starting to go, oh, there's divergence right here. Just note, this is very likely to continue. Okay, just note this is very likely to continue. Why? Look at the red zone. Remember the red zone we were talking about? We're not even in this yet, right? We've been talking about that. We're not even at that level of what? I believe it was 203. Yeah, 203 maybe. We can draw that up maybe once we're up there. And these moves are wrong, so we'll get those updated for you right now. But this is very good. Why? You break out of a zone, you tap back into it. Sitting here, sitting here, sitting here. That would be great. Sit there all day, see that thing curl up, watch that go to the upside. Then we look at the reversal signal going into what? FOMC. We look for the reversal signal going into FOMC. Now, I'm not saying that FOMC has to be bad. I'm saying we are going to pay attention to what momentum is telling us before FOMC. If IWM is doing this before FOMC and then curls back up, that's going to be a big deal. So what do we need to pay attention to? Weekly expected moves. We're going to update those for IWM real quick for you. IWM, we see 206.71 to the upside. Big move there. So if we pull back before then and we get FOMC and that's a good reaction, I would expect 206. 194.25. Boom, and you see that. Now that takes you outside of the zone, so you don't necessarily want to get here, right? But it does take you back into this one, right? So if we kind of delete these, let's do this right. So if we kind of delete these and we say, where would this really pull back to go higher? We'll mark off that high point. We'll take the actual low point as well. And you'll kind of see where we need to get to, right? If anything, the weekly expected move actually looks better, right? Because I think when we made these, we didn't include the top upper end, but it does prove to be pretty important, so we're going to keep it. So for the time being, you would say the best pullback, if I'm going to pull back before FOMC, if we do this, it's more likely that FOMC is going to be good news. If we do this, it's more likely that FOMC is going to cause a pullback. Only a pullback, right? We do see it from the 2 hour here. Actually, I don't think it's on the RSI. Let's double check. Yeah, see how it's not on the RSI. So this means that this is more likely to continue on the 2 hour scale. So if you get that 2 hour to pull back now, that'd be fantastic. You see that thing curl back up. We just ride up all the way up into, say, options expiration or something next Friday. Then we start to see those signals of weakness, right? Then we start to see those signals of weakness where? Towards the top of our zone, which means what? If we're at the top of our zone, then it is very likely to do what? Well, potentially test the bottom of that zone now, right? Potentially test into this type of area. Now, this thing will be interesting later on if this is able to happen, right? We got to see how things play out throughout this week, especially with FOMC. But if this is ending up being some kind of trap, then you are most likely going to see all of this given up. You're most likely going to see all of this given up and then used as resistance to do what? Fill the gaps, fill the gaps, fill the gaps. And if we need to test in case we are saying, oh, do we need to go lower? Is this a worse recession than we already have priced in? Then we're going to see a test of these lows. That's how this thing is most likely to behave. But this could take a lot of time. I think you are going to see a sell in May and go away kind of moment that convinces people to get out right before a decent big move throughout the summer. That's what I think is going to take place here for the time being. If things change, then I will change. But that's how I see it for the time being. Once again, for the IWM, 206.71 to the upside, 194.25 to the downside. No form of divergence on the RSI. You do have forms of divergence, possibly flat, right? Very flat on the MACD, which means I'm not reading into that for some kind of massive reversal. I'm really not until I see worse signals than what we're seeing right now. 30-minute just looks positive. I don't see real divergence here to be worried about. I think the 30-minute going into this zone would be fantastic. You just curl up into positive territory would be great. SPY heading to the downside now. Hopefully we can get to something like 550, 160. That'd be great. I'm down with that. Remember, we're above the zone. We're above this. All right. So now we go down to here. If we're going to make this thing worse, you're going to have to see a moment like this. You're going to have to see it break through most likely. Or at least show you something down here that rolls it back down. Maybe we do this. Maybe we do that. We'll see. But for the time being, very bullish. So we want to lean towards this. We want to lean towards this. We'll see if it sets up for us. There we go. SPY heading to the downside so far. What are you guys chatting about? IWM literally says like 30-minute pullback. It literally says 30-minute pullback. There is no divergence here for the RSI. There's no divergence here for the MACD. You just don't have it. You just wiped out these divergences. So this is a whole new sequence now. This was the big drop you got from all those divergences. Now you're back. And this is an extremely positive move. Extremely positive move. So this is where you can be right and say this is a top for IWM, but as of this moment, that's going to take some big news. And you don't even get news till Wednesday. So let's see how it shapes up till Wednesday. Also, why is that zone red? I like the white line. Oh, that's the line. I'm being stupid. There you go. Do something like that. I always change up my zone, so I'm sorry if they're a little different on each chart. Now, the important part for today is, do we get here? Do we get here, or do we stop early at that 5-day? NDX, I mean, you can look at these things. I like to just look at the cues for these type of things. You're seeing the same thing. For NDX, though, you can go look at the cues, and you're seeing a very similar thing, right? But for NDX, for the NAS, overall, you're seeing similar things. Like a 30-minute or a 2-hour pullback is very necessary. You see the divergences actually more clearly than on, say, IWM, even the cues or the spot. You actually see them very clearly here, which is nice. This means that a 2-hour pullback is justified. Now, the 2-hour doesn't necessarily have the best divergence, right? We would like to see that between these points. You don't have it. It's up, right? What's the price action? It's up. So that's not necessarily the best. You can see that on the MACD, you have come above that point. So once again, you don't have divergence in any form here. So this means that the weakness would be very, very unforeseen, even by technicals, you would say, for the time being. I think that you're leaving this behind. I think you're more likely to see something like this. Then you curl back up, you see this, and everyone goes, we just broke out. And then you could see something a little bit worse. Then you see something a little bit worse. I think that's how it would more play out. I mean, it's either that or you're just going to keep retesting and seeing upside, right? You're going to do this, retest, upside, retest, upside, retest, upside. That's how this market is behaving right now. It's very positive. The 30-minute chart as of right now, cross down in pullback mode. We'll see if that's able to turn up. That's the first thing we pay attention to. I think PayPal has a good little swing on it. What time frame are you looking at? Oh, not PY. PayPal. We like ourselves some PayPal. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Do you see how this one's different? Do you see how this one's different? It's breaking through the level, potentially having created that divergence point. The 30-minute not overall showing us too much weakness, but really just a grind higher. So what I'd be paying attention to for PayPal, one, is if the 2-hour crosses, if you start to see weakness, right? The other thing I'd pay attention to is just, does the 30-minute continue the move, right? If we see weakness in the 2-hour cross, it goes big risk. And then if the 30-minute just curls up, okay, we go see a higher price, right? So it's kind of as simple as that. You are breaking through to get to what? Well, this is previous resistance. We see that we're potentially getting to the center of this zone all the way up in here. We could potentially mark that off to see where this thing might be headed. Let's include all of it this time. There you go. Okay, where would that want to test? Well, that would want to test right at about $69. Once you get the test of $69 and then you see the next move, you'll know, right? As of right now, you have extreme divergences all across this. I'm not saying it's not like it looks great, but I am saying overall that we're getting into the zone. That's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. We're not past that center. That's not a good thing. That means we could still reject from PayPal and turn all the way down to go fill those gaps, right? This is why we're pointing out that, you know, we could see weakness more so maybe going into next week at this point. Even though we're seeing weakness right now, you would say, hey, we're seeing weakness right now. Yes, but it's more pullback type of weakness, not reversal and trend type of weakness for the time being. Longer time frame, more the daily scale. And that was, you were looking at the potential swing. The swing was down here, right? The swing was more like, hey, once we actually get that 2-hour pullback, you got confirmation here. And then you got a 2-hour pullback that then curled back up. You see the 2-hour pulling back down close to the center line, then it curls up again. This was your go line. Or if you wanted to wait till the 5 was taken back, go. That said go, and we're going to try to test in that block. And we made it through this, which means testing in that block is very good, and you're very likely to get to the center point at least, $69. So the trade here might be finished, honestly, but the trade actually is right here. It was get in on the daily, hold that bad boy, or get in on the daily, manage risk. See that 30-minute divergence, by the way. Look at this. Bam, 30-minute divergence told you everything you need to know. We should have been paying attention to PayPal. PayPal would have been a great hint. 30-minute divergence here, 2-hour goes up, earnings, volatility comes in, bam, we follow the market. It's not bad. 30-minute trend, very, very good here, right? So not necessarily the most bearish on PayPal. I think the swing is playing out, and I think you got to realize once you get into this box, anywhere in this box can be resistance, really. Now, the main points we watch for is 69, and pay attention to the behavior there. If you're able to get above that and then pull back, that's still a good thing. If you get, like, we treat it like percentage, right? So more percentage down here for rejection, less percentage up here for serious rejection to go fill those gaps. That's how I treat it. What does that give me? It gives me a strength, right? It shows me strength in the price action. Hey, how are we behaving in all of this resistance? Oh, we're behaving very strongly. Okay, so I probably shouldn't. So last week was the time. Let's see here. Last week, Uber continues to look very strong. Had a 500% trade. Could have been 1,500. Damn, Dave. Well, congratulations. 500% is just ridiculously good. Ridiculously good looking. Ridiculously good looking. But look at the dollar. Dollar's still sick. Dollar's still sick. Going to the downside. I think it'll curl. I think it's going to hold this point. I think it's going to hold this point. This means what? If we get good news from here, holy shit, the market will explode. If you can get good news to just make you do a little move like this, bam, 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 oh my goodness, the market will explode. So we'll be watching very closely. You would need good tariff. You need good global news, right, to see that dollar really show positivity. High yield growth for the time being, still dropping off, never made that new high. We were talking about TLT. TLT still heading to the downside. Going down to my point here, 87.08. It's a point that I pay attention to right now. Very, very good. Heading down, heading down, heading down. SPY, still holding, still holding, still holding. Not even curled down on a 2-hour yet. You know, the way I look at it, though, and I read into the psychology, I would really say this would be the most likely way to head lower and actually head higher. We'll see. That would literally line up to like a Tuesday buy at the end of the day. Wednesday, you potentially see a gap up. You head up for a few days. You start to pull back maybe next week. And then we'll talk about reversal signals around then. But that's reading maybe too far into the future. We got to see what happens today. If we look at Spot, we can look at Spot, Spotify. I believe earnings came out, was bad, still good price action, right? This is why earnings is a crazy thing. You got to be quick with it. 30-minute, extremely positive, extremely positive. So what would be a great thing for Spot? Actually, it would be to fill this gap. Filling this gap would be fantastic. Come all the way down, fill that gap for a moment, curl right back up. Nothing here looks too... Okay, 2-hour looks bad. It's 2-hour crosses down bad, right? 2-hour crosses down, probably starting that downside move. But if the 30-minute can just figure this out first, you might get one more swing up and then see that start to collapse, right? Looking for the weakness, right? We see, okay, this is how I like to treat it, by the way. If I see a 2-hour divergence forming, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the hints in shorter time frames. What's the hint in the shorter time frame that could form right here? A divergence. Did we get high enough in the overbought territory that we could make that divergence just like we did over here? Yeah. Okay, we want to act like that can always continue all the time. But for the time being, if this would vomit here, turn back up, or even vomit and turn up and make that high, lower high, or give us the divergence point, that would show us that the 2-hour is going to cross, right? So looking for the hints in the 30-minute for Spotify. 2-hour does not look very good as far as momentum goes. Markets, these can do crazy things though, so just be aware of that. Google's up. Let's go look at the Googmeister. Googmeister, good things, right? Good things, but definitely in need of a pullback here, right? You have a serious resistance towards the middle of its zone. We see we're just hitting that middle. If you include most of this, you're going to see that the middle of that zone is roughly where you're at right now. See how we don't even have to really draw the box to see the strength of this overall move. Very good level to get to. I'm just suggesting here, like, hey, you know, if we're going to break through resistance, that could fail later just because of how this is looking right now. I think it would continue, and you're looking for something like this if it's not going to continue, right? That didn't continue. That shot you below there. And you do have that extended across, kind of like a double top right here. Okay, so we'll see. But this 30-minute is so positive that I'd be more inclined to think trap is up in here. Trap is up in here. So that's how I'd think about it. The 2 hour as of right now, what are you looking for? Once again, you have another stock. You're looking at the 30-minute. It's extremely positive. You're looking for the hints in the 30-minute, which just leans me more and more and more towards, you know, FOMC is going to be a decent sized move. And I think we could just bottle up until then. We could see little 1% swings back and forth. Or see that, you know, I think this move would only be like, what, 2%? Would this be 2%? 2.5%, 3%? People go, oh, the market's done. Then it goes up. Or you're going to start to see the opposite reaction. See like, oh, the market's up 3.5%. Oh, this can't come down. And then it starts to come down. That's what I think will take place. I think whatever the first move is won't be the right one. But Google not looking like terrible, just from a momentum perspective. You would like it to gear up before breaking through that middle point. Like, what's the way to put it? Did we really gear up to take back this middle point? This bar took back the middle point. Okay, this bar took back the middle point. Did we really gear up for that? Or did we just gap higher and gap higher again? We didn't really gear up for it. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Google could be at risk of getting past that point and then experiencing the pullback that curls you back up. Filling this gap would be a fantastic thing this week. So fill one of them, go higher. Good stuff. The whole market had a big move after hours Wednesday. I calculated, wait a second. After hours when? Wednesday? All right, it looks just like this kind of moment right here. Let me read the rest of that. Calculate monthly moves and then weekly moves Saturday. Some stocks had lower upside expected moves on the monthly than they do for this weekly. Lower on the monthly than the weekly. That like can happen potentially maybe on an earnings week. I'd maybe look at those calculations again. I'd like to hear your numbers for it, Dubs. Tell me your weekly moves compared to monthly moves, and I'll check mine just to make sure. Yeah, I'm not seeing it exceed. I'm not seeing the weekly move exceed the monthly move, if that's what you were suggesting. But you know, I make mistakes. Maybe one of us did. Rutro AMC. Oh, Richard, don't talk badly about my YOLO, okay? What is that? Whoa, AMC actually moved today. That's cool. I don't mind this for AMC. Another point down here. I really don't mind this for AMC. I'd like to see, you know, potentially better things from the 2 hour, but I don't mind this for AMC. It's a great accumulation level, but have we really broken through what we need to break through? Not at all. Like, not really at all. You got to see this thing at least take back these type of levels. You got to see this thing start to take back these type of levels. Then after that, you got to take back these type of levels. It's got a long road ahead of it. Hopefully they have a good earnings. But earnings time, right? I'm not the biggest bull for AMC earnings almost ever. Not because not because the company can't do better, but because people just continue to short sell the hell out of it. As of right now, we see GME starting to curl down during what? AMC's earnings. What's going to happen to GME with AMC earnings this week? Well, I'd say down before, you know. All right, let's stick with the SPY for just a little bit here. Never thought I'd see the day. Well, I never thought I'd see the day where a, random company is selling off for no reason because of someone else's, every single time another stock has earnings that has no relation whatsoever. And we see it all the time now. So with a certain two stocks. Okay, 119.79 monthly, 120 weekly. Maybe I made a mistake. I was thinking it was because of a Wednesday closing price was way lower than price after hours when I calculated. Might have been. I mean, what I like to do, let me look at my closing price that I used for the calculation just to double check. For the monthly and, well, the monthly should be, I have 108.92 for the monthly. For the weekly, I have 114.50 for NVIDIA. NVIDIA, serious level to break through right now. Because this number is sometimes different. Close 114.50 on the close here. So that's the weekly level right there. The monthly level is going to be this close right here. What's the close? 108.92. Yeah, 108.92 is checked. So now you don't have too much, like a terrible amount of upside priced in for this month. I would say that. Like, I think it's a good move, but it's just like we could get there pretty freaking quick in either direction. So we'll find out. As of right now, you're still squeezing. I think you got to bottle up. All right, this is why we're still watching the 30-minute. It can do a lot throughout the day. It could take all day to do this. We just want to see if before FOMC, are we here or here as far as risk to reward goes. I gotta go over to this for a brief moment. Just real quick, guys. One moment here. Okay, good. We look good there. Nice. So, if you're wondering what I am doing in this environment, I am being patient. I am being patient. Had a couple of good, shorter term trades last week, so. God damn, this watch is giving me a freaking skin rash, I swear. God dang. Take it off for a bit. Ouchie. Ouchie. I have 108.70 Wednesday close price. And just look at your bar. Look at your bar, Dubs. Look at the actual bar. That's why I pulled out, right? Double check your work just in case, right? Double check. Because I'm just showing you it on your screen, what I have on my screen, and why my calculation is what it is. Look here, look up here, look right here. See the C? I know you know this, right? I'm not saying you're not smart or anything. I'm just saying like what I'm doing. I'm looking at this C right here. I'm holding it on this, and I'm going, okay, 114.50. Then I look for April 30th, that Wednesday, and I go look at that close again, 108.92. All right, just to double check my work. Sometimes that'll be, it can be off. Actually, weirdly enough, I've seen times where it's off, which is really weird to me. Normally, I just record the prices of over here. I just keep it the same for everything. That way I'm never changing anything. Oh boy! 10 a.m. is here, and now we got PMI, right? Services PMI coming out at 51.6. Overall, a good thing, right? Overall, a good thing. We're seeing what happens. I think what could cause a pullback if we're going to end up in the upward direction first, right? We kind of put yesterday out to say like, hey, the opportunity to the upside could be coming. If the opportunity is already here on the 30-minute, we'll see. I think we could still see interesting things throughout the day. But either way, something that people could not celebrate is like no rate cut again right now. I think that would be interesting. We'll find out. See what Jay Pizzle for Shizzle Dizzle's got going for us this week, you know? Taw, what's going on, man? You think the dip's already over for today? It genuinely could be, Saw. That could be it. That could be done. I mean, I could go into shorter time frames and be like, hey, let's see how deep this is, you know, look really, really thoroughly and say, okay, most of the time we turn around, you'll see it be able to build back positive and see this thing holding, right? Key level. For the time being, your MACD is negative, but it's not really terribly negative. But you notice in the past, what have you made down here? Well, look at these little 5-minute rejection divergences. So we don't see that yet, but we did get data. So data can really make it so the momentum's going to be different. So the key thing here is like, hey, this is, you know, if I was a day trader, I'd be like, hey, do we take this back? Do I see a retest? And maybe we see that. And then that would be maybe the trade going into the next trading session, possibly. We'd have to see, though. I'm down, C11. I'm down for that. I think that's your opportunity. I think down here is your opportunity zone. I think if you climb and climb and climb, I don't necessarily want to be inclined to like short here. I still think it's just going to be positive, right? Because we're not going to make the things we need to on the 2-hour if we just see positivity go up like this. You're just going to see this MACD go like this, grind, and then maybe you pull back and then you curl up. So either way, I think the opportunity will be here. It's just when. Is it going to be right now in the next couple of trading sessions? Or is it going to be later, right? I think you're going to see something like this either way. You're very, very positive. So these people that are saying crash, 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 all the way down to here right now, it doesn't hold weight just yet. It really doesn't. You can go revisit this later. You can go revisit these gaps later, right? But for the time being, I think we're going to see those gaps potentially even filled in May. Possibly. I think it's very possible. But I want to see how this week behaves. I think if we're going to do that, we would see down, up, down, boom, boom. I think that's what you would overall be looking for. Take out this level for just a brief moment. Hang that bad boy up there, nice, high and dry. But market can do what the market wants to do. My job isn't to guess what the market's going to do and risk my money. My job is to kind of assume, kind of look at the information I have, make a plan for that, and actually execute a trade knowing the things that I know if one of those play out, right? And then my overall job in one word is react, right? I use all the information in front of me, and then I make a reaction, which means a decision. And then after that, my next reaction will matter. I have a next decision to make right after that. It's funny how when we gap up, we're bullish. When we gap down, we're still bullish. Well, the environment's changed. It makes sense for you. That wasn't the... Come on, guys. That was not the case a few weeks ago. You gap down. Look at this. Look, okay? This gap down right here. Were people saying, oh, this is bullish? No, they were like, we're going to 400, right? This gap down right here, were people bullish? No, they were saying we're going down to 400. What were we saying here? This is most likely a 2-hour pullback, right? Watch for if the 2-hour crosses up, because then we can see good things. We can get back up into that zone and get that retest, right? We're retesting right now. Let the thing retest wherever it wants to test, watch the next move, and then you'll have a trade, right? Being patient here is the overall plan. Yeah, you were literally in a gap down means crash environment. Any gap ups mean, any gap ups were bull traps back in these type of areas. Any kind of move to the upside was a bull trap. Any kind of move to the upside was a bull trap. This is a bull trap, right? And then it's not. So the environment's changed. So now you're going to hear people saying the same thing. They're going to say all of these dips lead to upside. And they're going to be right for an extended period of time, most likely, until a dip happens, they see a bounce, and it fails. That's just how it's going to work. Let's not get overzealous with, I understand you're reading into the psychology of traders and stuff, but notice it is flipping now. It is flipping to everything is bullish. Okay, so look for something bearish eventually. I was bullish at the bottom there, for instance, the day we played Apple back 4.9. Yeah, exactly. The structure was great, but everyone was calling crash, is what I'm saying, right? They were not saying bullish things then. Now they are saying bullish things because it is obviously a bullish trend, right? This is why I say look for YouTubers that almost tell you the opposite, because anyone can tell you this is bullish. I'm telling you about the potential opportunity that could come from it, where people start to think, oh, this is bearish, and then it turns back to bullish, right? I'm hoping that this curls down to here, right, Ta? Oh, gold is, that's a rip. Gold had a rip. I did see this. 2 hours still negative. You're going all the way past the center point here. Very, very cool for gold. I'm going to make a zone too. We're just going to take this entire block. I'm going to extend it over. That way we can kind of see here. That's roughly good enough. We'll take the wick into consideration, even though we probably should pull it up to about here. I'm gonna use that wick into consideration because either way, you're still above the center. You're above the center now. So you have the market. So someone's lying here is what it really adds up to. Is gold going to be the one that's lying, that's negative right now, curling up GLD on the 2 hour? Is that the one that's lying? Or is it the overall market? And you would suggest that the market could be lying here with the warning signs you're seeing, right? You're seeing the dollar drop off. Hey, gold likes that, right? You're seeing TLT continue to drop off while the market heads higher. These are warning flags, right? We know that these are warning flags. But are we able to look at this? You're saying hey, look at this, Ta. Hey, everyone's bullish during a gap down. You have a PCC right now of 0.97. Once again, pay attention to what people do, not what they say. Right? Whether you like it or not, retail is in I think are in a lot of calls in these type of areas too. But for today, we get that information. We go, okay, if this is really everyone saying, oh yeah, every gap down is bullish, well then we shouldn't see a 0.97. Gold to back out, waiting for a few days, shorting it again. If it touches the highs, it is doing a good thing. But overall, still the 2 hours in a negative trend, right? Yeah, especially if you go look at futures, you'll probably see it a little bit better. You can see how the 2 hour built back up, right? The rejection higher low, very, very nice. Okay, so this one is reaching into our zone, right? We get better info. Look at it rejecting off the center. So this is why, a lot of the time I say I look at futures as well for gold because it tells you just a little bit more information. And so you can see how we're retesting into the center there. So what do you need to go higher? Probably this. This would be great. You don't really need that, right? You can extend this and get to that upside. For now, though, I would like to see something like this form. That would be great. And that means if gold backs off and the market goes higher, and then gold starts to rip up, and the dollar starts to go down even further, and the market stays higher, but then creates a divergence that turns down, watch out. Does TLT return back around? How do these things really work? Well, if gold's seeing upside, doesn't necessarily mean that the equities are in a great, great spot, even though from price action, we see that they are, right? So what's the most important thing to watch, though? Price action, right? Even if gold wants to sky up to 20,000, what is price action telling us, right? Price action is telling us that we're retesting right now. We should be very patient. That's how I see it at this moment. Gold may drop below 3,000 in the next couple of months. I think it will. Potentially by the summer, I think we'll start to see closings below. I think we'll get a time where gold chills out for a bit of time. As far as gold goes, though, the reason for this, if you look at the daily scale, you're just going, okay, this is still very positive. You just have that divergence on the RSI. So I do think gold will back off. And I think where it'll back off to is potentially down into here. I don't think it goes and stays sub 3,000. I think if you're going to go sub 3,000, you're going to see this. You're going to go all the way down to here and then see a bounce and see that curl down, right? You're going to see this taken out. Serious good support there. And then you're going to break down. And then the only time you're aware of, hey, is there a reaction down in these levels and is it making a divergence? I think you got to break down lower, much lower. Because I think all you have to do is test 3,200. All you have to do is test into 3,200. and this thing can start turning back around. Your MACD is not suggesting like, oh, this is a major, major top for gold right now. It's saying it's a pullback. It's saying pullback. And what does it look like? It looks like a pullback, right? This isn't going bam, 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 right? So we'll be paying attention to it. I'll keep an eye on it too. Bring it up again later, right? Later on in the week, we'll take a look. After FOMC, we'll probably take a look. But we showed off the dollar. Gold's going to have that opposite reaction. I think 3,200 looks pretty good, Jim, but 3,000, those whole numbers are always pretty good. All right, yields continuing to the upside. Is TLT or the yields making any kind of reversal signal? That's what I kind of want to find out. No, it looks like the yields are going to trend in the upward direction. Yeah, it really does. 4 hours able to go really positive too. So someone's lying here. Someone's lying here. Usually it's usually it's where people can be manipulated the most. And so most of the time that's the SPY. So now, is it a massive lie that's going to shoot us down to these type of levels? Maybe sometime in, towards the later stages of May, maybe late to mid to late May. But for the time being, you just say this is very likely to continue for now. The lie looks like it's going to continue if it is in the SPY. Great morning, can't get right. Look at SPY Weekly 50 SMA. I think we just need strength regardless. You need strength regardless. And then what did we say from this move, guys? If you go back a few Saturday videos when we were talking down here, we were talking about this. This is going to make some kind of move up, and then it's going to get to this 200. Where it rejects from is what we're going to read into, right? Where it rejects from is where we're going to read into it. If it rejects from here, anywhere above pretty much 562, okay, if it rejects from anywhere above there, then we're looking for potential pullback, right? With the awareness that this can happen, right? But this starts to become less and less probable. So I don't think we're going to need to revisit those lows at this moment. We'll see if we need to later. But if this would extend all the way to here, what does it overall open up the door to? Well, a drop, right? A drop to maybe come into here, maybe even fill those gaps, right? We still want to be aware of that, but it starts to become way less probable because what you could do is start to use this as support, right? You head up to here, you curl back down, and what do people say here? This is something we pointed out in this video that I'm thinking of like from weeks ago. It was literally like it was when we were here, I believe. We said, watch for that rejection off of the 200 after we make, I think it was after we saw this. After we make the higher low or get the divergence, watch for us to reject off of the 200 or just above the 200 or somewhere between 562 to 576. If we do that and that curls down, what are the bears going to say? They're going to say, we rejected off the 200. This is garbage. This is awful. We're going to make new lows. They could be right, and we'll take that into consideration with our risk, and maybe we're patient during this time. But if this curls back up, that is how you head to the upside, right? And notice that that would take you into what? The end, the last week of May. The last week of May. That would be fantastic. You see a drop that convinces people of sell in May and go away. And then you see some kind of actual bull run in the early stages of the summer. Now, whether that gets to all-time high or not, we'll have to see. But I think that's a way to get there. I think that's a way to get there. So now we're just watching, right? Because we look at the shorter time frames because we like to, make money in between. It's kind of nice. Happy Cinco de Drinko. What up, can't get right? That's what's up. That's what's up. My dad and my brother were drinking a flaming Consuela yesterday. Casuela. Is it Casuela or Consuela? I think it's Casuela. May's usually a good month. Well, May is usually a good month in what kind of environment, right? May is usually a good month. May is usually a good month. And then sell in May and go away usually takes place or something like that, right? Markets start to go sideways, all kinds of things. But you've already seen the sell before May. Sell in May and go away is kind of different when you experience a correction right before it. at least for the psychology of the market, you would say, sell in May and going away after we just got a correction probably isn't the best thing, right? Probably isn't the most likely scenario that had to happen for sell in May and go away to actually be correct, right? But I do think you'll see a sell in May and go away type of moment. Whether it's right now, I think it would more so be towards the mid to late stages of the month, just for a brief moment, and people start to call stock market crash again. And then you're potentially going to see some de-escalation at that point. Oh yeah, demand dog. I'm not saying it's like not when I say like the dollar going down is a bad thing. I want you to understand that's in context of markets. That's in context of equities. That's in context of the SPY, the Qs, right? Overall, the dollar being down is not necessarily the best thing. The best thing for right now for the environment that we're in for markets. Is it a horrible thing overall? I would probably argue not necessarily. Lumps here. I sold my puts. Hey, man, this environment's very, very bullish. So if you decided to short, on, say, Friday and you see a gap down, bro, anytime that you're in a squeeze and you decide to short and you end up being right, take your fucking money and run. I'm just not even going to. I don't even play. I don't play with it because this thing can remain very irrational. I'll show you. You want to see irrational? Pull up a weekly chart. All right, you see this right now. You see this. I know there's a bunch of freaking lines everywhere. We probably don't need to mark this off right now. I don't think we need to mark that off. But you see a bunch of lines. All right, let's get some of these off of here. We'll keep that one. For the time being, though, if you go look at times where this type of thing happened, I want you to really go look at these moments. Look. Okay, sideways, up, down, up, right? That's all you got. All right, let's look at another one. Well, what was this? This was 2018, Operation Twist. Operation Twister Nips, old Jerome Powell and Donald Trump, back when the tariffs were trying to be put on again, right? Well, look what happened. Sideways, up, down, up, down, up, all COVID, right? But overall, what did this do? Up, right? You could be in one of those environments right now, is what I'm saying. So don't really take into consideration like shorting is an easy thing. You're in one of these. Now, it could behave poorly, right? There are probably times where it was doing something and behaves poorly, right? But for the time being, you're just like, okay, are we in a bear market? As of right now, no, you are not. When you are in a bear market is when you lose this low, for a brief moment, you see that snap back and reject. Right? See this? We lose that low. We bounce up. We reject. This is definitely, I would be perfectly fine with people calling that a bear market. Right? As of right now, you're not. You're not. You have bear market like volatility. You've probably heard me say that, right? But if I consider that this, I just showed you all these, right? All these examples. This correction here, boom. This crash, really, COVID crash, boom. A little bit bumpier, but overall sideways pullbacks. Right here, 2018, boom. Okay, 1, 2, even 3. Now potentially 4, but 3. We'll say 3. And then you had 1 that behaved differently. So most of the time, you're potentially going to do this. Most of the time. Now, this is a different environment, and you can read into that, but don't read too far into it. What you should be paying attention to is price action. Price action will tell you. Price action will tell you. I know that's crazy to say. You're negative right now. So if you drop again, that's a rough spot. A lot of the time during these corrective moves, you just keep leaking higher. You see 1 or 2 pullback moments and you keep leaking higher. I hope Orange Man don't blink. It's just you can't look at the stock market and be bearish on it all the time, because if you were bearish on it all the time, I'm 33. So if I was bearish on the stock market for 33 years, I would have been wrong for 33 years. right? Because if I would have kept adding those positions, they wouldn't even be profitable even with the crashes, right? I would have just missed out on everything. So don't be bearish until you see something change here. That's the thing. Don't be bearish until you see something to be bearish about. There really is not a lot to be bearish about right here. There's just not. If you get something bearish to happen, it is most likely going to be something unforeseen, something breaking, something bad that we already don't know, that we haven't priced in. Like, get out, meow. Bro, there's people online that have said get out for the last, ever since I've started to look at YouTubers with financials. I still see the same people doing the same thing. And you know why they do that? They talk bearish all the time. It gets more clicks. That's it. That's it. You are, if you are being bearish for the last 20 years, you're right. There is serious risk. But you are completely wrong in how these markets actually work. What fiscal policy is actually pumping these markets and stuff. Because if you're not aware of that, then you're just going to be wrong all the time. If you're not aware of the money pumping in 2020, then you're just blatantly wrong again. You might have been right for a couple of weeks, and then you're immediately wrong. It's just, this is why trade like water is what I say all the time. I'm actually a pretty pretty bearish guy on the market. I actually am. I think that we have something massive coming down the line. But here's the thing. What's that phrase? Coming down the line. Does that give me a time frame? No. So am I going to bet on that all the time? No. You know how many? Okay, I saw this. It's someone I respect, and this is how confusing these markets are. That someone just put, this changes everything. Every single person that I saw making YouTube videos or any video that pops up this week, and I saw this changes everything probably about 40 times last week. And some posting this changes everything on Monday, telling you that the market's bullish, right? And then we see a drop and they go, this changes everything. Now the market's bearish. We're just, that's just hip fire reactions telling you what happened the previous day. It doesn't actually help you. I clickbaited you guys once. Do you remember that? Do you guys remember when I clickbaited you to prove a point? And then I talked about how we were bottoming. And I talked about how it's blatantly not going to crash and have a Black Monday. I had to clickbait you guys once, and I literally read some of the comments, and people were freaking out. People were freaking out. And it's like, and then they read it and they go, whew, like people came in a live show, they're like, dude, you scared the shit out of me. I'm like, it's awesome. That's good, Ta. Well, people said, they're like, I actually respect your opinion, so I was really scared of this. And I was like, yeah, I was kind of just trying to prove a point here. It's very easy to tell you it's bearish when it's bearish. And I think Ta's pointing this out now that it's shifted, and now it's very easy to tell you it's bullish when it's bullish. And even me, it is still bullish right now. I will let you know when I see something different pop up. The Alex, the video is, I put 100% chance of a crash. That's just not a thing. It's not. Tesla breakdown. Let's go look at Tesla. Tesla for the time being, here it is. Okay, so what is Tesla overall in? Well, you would say some kind of range. Some kind of range. But what's the risk here? Well, during the time where you were in this range, were you positive or negative? Oh, you're positive. So is this right now trying to go negative? Yes. Has it lost the low point? No. Okay, so if you look at the 2-hour chart, you're just pulling back. This could literally give up all of this. Maybe it gets really bad. Maybe you come all the way down to here. And guess what? Still bullish. Still positive trend. It's a great move. You've not retraced this almost at all. All right, maybe we'll do something. Maybe we'll pull this up. Maybe Ta has something to say about it, right? Maybe Ta's got something to say about it. But overall, you look at this and you go, wow, where would be a great place to get to? Probably right here. Probably right here. And even right here. You're just bottled up. And the swings are getting actually bigger right now, which is very interesting. But is it a positive trend? Because look, this was awful. But look how it moved back up. Because you're a positive trend. It still tried to do it. It still tried to do it. So when do you get more worried about Tesla? When the daily time frame tells you to get more worried, right? It's not necessarily like, oh, I want to be holding on to things when they're curling down below this, below the 5-day, below the 9-day, and the only thing you're having to hold on to is the 50, right? That's not a good thing. It says, hey, just in case this would happen, I don't necessarily want to be holding on to Tesla. But if I look at the shorter time frames and that 2 hour just turns back up, it means that that's probably bottling up to do what? Maybe even get all the way to 328.50. Because if you break through this, you break through all of this up here. You break through all of this right here. Guess what? That is pretty much, like, that is, I won't say guaranteed. I will say that is a very high potential to get there. High probability to get here once you actually break through all of this nonsense. Maybe you get lucky and get a little retest, right? We'll see. If we're going to turn down, I would say, you know, next week would make a lot of sense. So we'll look for traps and things like that. But Tesla overall, if it pulls back, 2 hours just saying it's a pullback. You're moving sideways. Could just be a pullback with time. You don't even have to break this low potentially. Maybe you sweep it for a moment. Overall, Tesla looks great. Actually able to go positive. Plenty of tests down here to say Tesla doesn't want to go lower. So if you do get a retest down by like 250, that would be fantastic. I think that would be great. As long as SPY stays above 545, we're bullish. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I would take the point of 550 as kind of my risk point. This right here, pretty much 550. I would take into consideration 550 and just say, hey, we lose that. There's chances to reject down and then lose 545. You know, you lose 545, 535, that door really swings open. So yeah, I'm a little bit more leaning towards 550, but I could totally see 545 if we remain above that. Like, yeah, you're not even taking out this low. And guess what? Your 2 hour still would say if you go down to 545, you do all of this, 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 right? We can use this zone in any fashion. We just want to look if it crosses through 550. Hey, do we get rejected at some point? Right now, your weekly expected moves, if you got down there early on, they would not suggest that that is a high probability this week. You would have to get a big-ass surprise. Apple popping down. All right, 199.37, not able to even go retest the area, seriously losing it, not able to take it back like, oh, actually, my goodness, what a gap down on earnings. So for Apple, Apple is still positive, and we might be looking at what? Weirdly enough, for Apple, you are almost to what? A weekly expected move. It would be great to fill this gap. Oh my goodness, fill that gap and turn around. But for the time being, you got to be very cautious with Apple. Now, Apple, I believe, was the one that showed all of those divergences on the 30-minute, if I'm not mistaken. Correct? Wants to load. All of the 30-minute divergences were there. All of it held on the MACD. All of it held on the RSI. Right? Then you see this gap down. And notice how the game has changed for Apple. You are now below this. You are now below the 5. Which means what? You're probably going to see a reaction soon. I think you'll see a reaction soon. And I think that you might see it go like this and then drop down one more time and fill that gap. I think that would be a great thing. Right? You could even like just mark it off with a zone because it's a pretty big gap. You can mark off that zone with a gap if you want to. That's right. Gaps kind of work the same way. We don't need to mark that off though. We see it. So what am I looking for Apple? Well, now it's negative. The 30-minute is very negative, right? Where's the 2 hour? The 2 hour is still within range of curling up and going positive. So what do I look for from Apple right now? As I could just see this and curl up. I'm looking for Apple to show me the business, show me the good things, right? Take this back, use it as support, boom, you have a trade setup. trying to catch a falling knife. That's what this kind of is right now. Weirdly enough, you don't have any inclination that this is just going to snap back. It can, right, from a weekly expected move, but are we at the weekly expected move? No. So what would be great here? Oh, people think it's going to crash, then it does this. That'd be great. Let's see if it happens. That's your hint. You're looking for hints that this can turn around as the 2 hour is really close to the center line. That's going to take days to form. So that 2 hour, we'll have to look at how negative it gets in the next few trading sessions. Apple is showing that extreme weakness. I kind of want to look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA is confirming. We'll look out for NVIDIA. This is why the 2 hour pullback is something I really want. I still think that with what we're seeing this morning, we just want to be watching for something like this. Let it take its time today. If it takes its time today and we see continuation tomorrow, that means FOMC will be a big point to say, are we going to see a bullish reaction? We'll find out. It takes time, right? That's why I'm not risking money right now. It takes time. I'm going to chill. I'm going to sit. I'm going to watch this. And then we'll look at it at the end of the day together because we will be live on YouTube later today at the close. We still got some time this morning. Popping knuckles. Apple long calls. I do not see any reason to long Apple just yet. I think it could see a reaction here to get some kind of bounce, but you got to be looking at those shorter time frames to really be like, oh, I want to get into Apple right now. I think yes, hype carries harder. Should I sell my option today before the FOMC? That would be up to you. That would be a, hey, do I want to assume the risk of that kind of unknown, right? Even though we know about it and someone else knows about it, most likely knows which direction this market's going to go from it. That's true. That probably is the case. But I would still read into the fact that you do not know. So if you do not want to assume the risk of an event like that, that's how we look into it. Can you look at Netflix on the 4 hour? We can look at Netflix. Netflix here, this is where we were just saying, man, I want to, God, I just wanted to short the hell out of Netflix on Friday. I really did. Do you see what you need to see for this to like be some kind of massive reversal? The answer to that is technically no. You know, at the end of the day, Netflix at some point, maybe it reaches up higher and then does this. And maybe it even goes all the way down to 1,000. And then we see it curl back up. That would be fantastic. I don't even know if we're able to get there. This is such a strong move. You could just test into here. You could just test into there and it would be great. So what you're looking for is, you know, the 2 hour to show you something. You don't have to always short things that look ballistically crazy because this could just go like that, right? You understand the environment's to short. You're not really in it too much. But if you want to assume that it's going to do something like this, I get it, right? Just use your management of risk tools in case that thing goes sideways. For the time being, though, the actual trade for me for Netflix would be, let's see an upside move, then see that come down. I'm being patient the whole time. I see it react into here and curl back up, and we see this just get by the center line and curl up. Keep it as simple as possible. A test into the high here of about 1,060 would be very, very good for Netflix. You can't look at something that's extremely, extremely bullish and just talk really negatively about it, right? I can talk negatively and getting into calls here, getting into calls even here, and say I'd rather have calls when this is an actual opportunity, and then we see something good happen, right? The biggest thing that a lot of people need to, especially new people, get through their head early is if you can do this early, it's the best case. If you can get this through your head early, it's the best case scenario. One, the market can do whatever the market wants to do at pretty much any moment. Two, you'll get hints to see direction. And then three, make sure that you're paying attention to your risk and the risk and reward of your trade, right? Is your trade an actual opportunity or are you just trying to make money? Because If you are just taking things every single time you see something, right, not following your rules, not following your trade setup, not following your 3 to 5 reasons to take a trade, like in the full technical analysis course down there, 80% off this month, right, goes away soon. If you're not following those things, you're going to make tons of decisions all the time, always be making decisions every single day, and you're going to end up in a lot of risk. Wait for things that are an actual opportunity. Is this an opportunity right now? If the 30-minute would curl up, it would suggest it potentially is a 30-minute opportunity. But what do we see from how this stock market would like to behave if it wants to end the week in an upward direction? Well, then we would most likely see a pullback early in the week down to potentially the weekly expected move. So the technically opportunity would be here. Where are we right now? We are here, right? If the 30-minute curls up, am I, me, Lucas, am I going to take calls? No. I am going to sit back. I'm waiting for the big pullback moment. I'm waiting to see where this thing actually retests to understand what I want to do with my money. Fairly new to options. If you have a put, and before that put expires, you see a downtrend that takes you even further down, then technically, yes, it would be more over time. But time is something that you need to understand if you're going to do options saw, right? Time. If I take a put for the SPY for, let's say, a month from now, let's say this is what I'm taking. I'm taking 550 at, say, maybe a week into July. Let's say Friday the 6th. Okay, let's mark that off for a second. Right, if I take Friday the 6th, I mark that off. Okay, so my trade ends, the expiration is here. Well, if we do this, it's going to be making money. It's going to be making money. And if I get to that 550, ooh, okay, cool. Time's with me. I get the value of time. And that's very, very good. That means the trade's pretty much over, right? Or is it? Right? Based on this week's information, the trade would maybe be over. Based on just this week's information. If I see it do this and then cross back up, oh, I can retake that position, move it out a little bit, and say, okay, now what am I looking for? I'm potentially looking for gap fills, right? But overall, if you're talking about how the value of options really like works, well, what you're going to notice is if this does this and I hold on to it, then it does this, then it does this, then it does this, then it gets to that price, I still could potentially lose money. I know that's kind of crazy, but I still could potentially lose money because the value of time is gone. So you have to understand, like, holding things exactly to expiration when your price isn't taken is kind of like a not necessarily the best thing. You can lose a lot of value with time. Time matters, yes. There you go. Taw's got it for me. Taw, shout it from the rooftops. Yeah, so always take into consideration time. Always take into consideration time. That's why I'm glad someone today might have been shorting into Friday, but what did they say? Based on this market, I shorted, it went down, I'm out. It didn't even get to their price maybe, but they're out. Why? Because the value of the option went up and you have risk of just doing this, which would eat away at what? Time. So if it goes down to here and it gets there and it gets there, but you've decayed so much that it's pretty much break even at that point. It's just like, was it really worth it? You want to make sure you're profitable. My precious. Yeah, if you're going to do options, timing is a lot more important. If you're going to use like SQQQ and buy that, time is still important to you, by the way. Even for SQQQ, even for SPXS, any kind of leverage short ETF, if you're just buying the stuff, it does have decay in it every single day. Yeah, Saw. So what I like to say, Saw, is I always extend out the time. For a 2-hour move, if I want to see a 2-hour pullback, I'm still buying a month. And then if I see that 2-hour pullback in the next couple of sessions, literally 2 sessions, I'll be potentially out. That's how I like to do things. Thanks, Nels. I appreciate that. It's more just, I think bringing up like, is this an actual opportunity or am I just trading money because I want to make money faster? Well, you're going to make money a lot more consistent and technically faster over time if you just wait for an opportunity. Is this an opportunity right now? Probably to some people. Are some people going to fade this in the upward direction to get that gap fill and then see if it turns back down? Yeah, they will. People do those things. But guess what? Day traders, why do you think day traders literally buy something and sell it in 2 minutes? It's because time is very important. They're very quick. So what I'm kind of saying in the environment that we're creating here on YouTube and the community that we're creating here is just, I don't think a lot of people are as fast as Usain Bolt. I think more people would be able to understand markets better if they spread out a little bit and take things a little bit slower. That's exactly what I'm doing. Look at Chris. Chris just uses the daily expected moves, makes a couple of trades here and there, sells it within like probably 10 minutes, and he's done. And guess what? Chris was kicking himself for selling during this, probably kicking yourself for selling during this. I sold right at the high. I was like, nope, this is the exact level I'm watching. Weekly expected move. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Remember the weekly expected move giving us the perfect sell? Remember when we talked about the entire trade setup before it happened? Go on Patreon right now. Go on Patreon. Go back to that date right before that move. It genuinely is. If you wait for the opportunities, that was one of the best things that you could see. It is something that you will not see often. That is potentially a once in a lifetime kind of trade. I would say once every like 10 years, you'll see something like that. I knew it, Chris. It works, but it's scary as hell. Yeah. What things that produce good money aren't scary? What things that end up being a good thing aren't scary? You know? Still made 17K, but missed 60. Ooh, that's still nice, Chris. You got to be like, hell yeah. That is the best trade of the year right there. That is the best trade of the year. And we're seeing if the next best trade, maybe for like a more investment style opportunity, which you have investments potentially out there. We've been looking at Target. I don't mind this. I think Target might go through some pain here, right? I understand that it might go through some pain, but what's it overall going to do? Oh, it's probably going to do this, right? Here's what Target's most likely going to do as it's still negative. If that 2 hour is going to show rejection, you might see rejection before earnings, and then we might see that. This would be freaking awesome, right? Might have to put some more money to work over there. But do I care about that if I'm investing? No, I really don't. A daily curl down isn't going to convince me to get out of my investment. Exactly, yeah. So Mad Dog's pointing out how you can use a longer amount of time. And that way also, like, time works with you. If you purchase more time, that's how we'll say it. If you purchase more time, then if something goes wrong, you will lose significantly less money. As long as you're not going like, 20%, 30% out of the money or something. Best of luck to you all that are trading today. Nice to get out of the house today for those who aren't. Hell yeah, let's get out of the house. Let's go touch some grass, see some sun. Playing some fun money on some AMC earnings. You got to have fun with it every once in a while, right? You don't have to take it, that's why I have multiple accounts, right? You take it very, very seriously with this one, you invest with this one, and then you have the fun account for you to do those, get that degeneracy out of you. Even in an option day trade, I'll buy 1 to 3 days out. Perfect example, right? Day traders maybe utilize it. Now, a lot of people do 0 DTE. You want to see something decay in 20 minutes, 0 DTE. That's why they sell it very, very quickly. Why is Tesla heading up? Because it hasn't seen a why is Tesla going up? Never mind. We're not even going to talk about that point. If you can't realize that Tesla is going down, that's a big problem. If you were at a price yesterday and the price today is lower, the stock is going down. It's just in a range. It's in a range. I think you could go fill that gap and it would still be pretty good. Yeah, but if we can't understand that, and I'm not trying to hate on you or anything, I'm just like, you gotta have some mentality that like, if you're looking at a 1 minute time frame and telling me Tesla's going up right now, I just don't give a shit. I'm just gonna be totally honest. I just don't care. It's going down right now. Like, and I want to help you, and I want to help you understand, but that's like, you could say, why is the SPY going up right now? And I would have more credibility to that. And I would just say, hey, it's, in retrospect here, it's a 5 minute bounce. I would love to see that, boom. I'd love to see that today. Give me that 2 hour pullback, baby. Strongest 30 seconds in Tesla's history. Oh, yeah, for sure, dude. Is the SPY going down? Technically, yes. Is it going up right now? Tell me the time frame. You gotta be, is it going down? Well, it's negative right now. It's kind of, the next hour will determine a lot. I think so. I think you're right. I think the last bits of retail moments here will tell a lot. We'll see. I think more end of day will help us. Yeah, if you're saying that something that is super negative right now is going up, you're looking at those shorter time frames, buddy. It's just when lunchtime kind of calms down, we potentially see other countries start to close out of positions, things like that. We'll see what happens. Waiting for the 2 hour to roll in the SPY. Patience, right, Tony? Patience. You got some 265 puts. I wish you some luck there, Kalani. Let's go. I hope so. I hope that all you guys are successful. Even if you're not making money, maybe you could be successful in not losing money if you're in the wrong side. Bitcoin has always led the trend and actually has dropped 4 to 5% already and didn't make any upward move. I think Bitcoin is a pretty good thing to watch here. 30-minute divergence. Okay, maybe a 2 hour move comes, right? But you are correct to point this out. What were we saying for this 4 hour chart? We were saying that the 4 hour chart could potentially curl up here. We were saying that 98.3, pretty much 98.3K would be great. Can we push past that to go retest into this area? I think we're still going to test this area. But for now, you have 4 hour divergence that was really close to the center line. This is exactly what we were saying to watch out for. And guess what? 2 hour, potential, bam, bam. You see that confirm across first. Okay, there can be weakness here, right? Still closer to the center line than, say, even over here. So 4 hour made the divergence we talked about. 4 hour curled down. Now what happens if the 4 hour curls up here? If the 4 hour curls up here and goes positive, what could we do? A lot of positive things, right? You still can do positive things in this type of environment here for the 4 hour. This means that the 4 hour could get excited and do this, set up the divergence point again. The 4 hour could get excited and then curl back down in negative territory. This is the push I'm really looking for. If we just get more of the same right now, that's fine, right? I think what you're going to see is this is going to be used. We're going to curl down, maybe reject and see that turn down again. That would be fantastic. See, once you really look at these things and you go, oh, a daily pullback would be great. I would love a daily pullback. Where would that daily pullback go to? Oh, I'd love for it to go to 87.6. I'd love for it to go deeper, go to 84. All right, do this. Do this. Right? If you want to give us the opportunity, give us the opportunity. If you don't want to give us a good, great opportunity, then give us a good one. And then we'll pay attention to what happens around here. You're just in the zone. with a 4-hour divergence that says, hey, the daily could cross here, which means I'm kind of open to this. That would be fantastic. I'd be down, which means maybe the market will follow. But do we see the same things from the market? Is the market doing what Bitcoin is doing? Does the market have a 2-hour divergence right now? Does the SPY have a 2-hour divergence right now? No. Nope. Nope. So we'll see. But yeah, using Bitcoin as an indication of, say, like risk, like risk on, risk off. There's Friday. Okay, so overnight, so we might need to look at futures for that. I would look at futures went and tagged 570. 570. Top of the wick from 10 a.m. Thursday. Oh God, a 30-minute chart. Okay, well. Oof, we didn't quite get there, but I think we were able to get to 5,700, correct? Yeah, 5,700. So 5,700, very, very good, but this was on Friday slightly. All right. We still potentially need the market to the SPY to get to 570. I mean, lackluster for the time being. So this will be fun to see at the end of the day. Get off before I'm back. Hope you have a great day. Hey, I hope you have a good one too. Have a good call, buddy. I'll see you guys. If you do have to leave the stream now, we will be live later today. I like it, Ta. Appreciate you, buddy. Go look at volatility again. Okay, 30-minute for volatility. 30-minute for volatility crossing down. Not negative just yet. I think you're beelining for that gap. I think you get gap fill here potentially. Oh, yeah. It looks like you're beelining for the gap fill for volatility, which means SPY. Oh, if SPY doesn't fill the gap, that would be interesting. Baba. Yeah, we can go check on Baba real quick. See what we see from the daily perspective. Trying to peek its head into positive territory. Ooh, some big gaps beneath you. Running into some good resistance here. Right, so if you're really paying attention, say like a block, you wanted to make a block, I would take the high point. I would take the high point here. I would take the absolute high point. I would probably only include this wick. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. If I'm not being dumb. I think you might have a little bit more room here. I mean, there's potential that you could, pull this down. Just note that the risk is getting a little bit heavy. Let's just include all of it for now because the close was pretty good right here, that resistance coming in. So why are we marking off this zone? Well, because this is where resistance can be. And so for the time being, if you see that curl up and curl up and curl up and it still rejects from like 137.25, 27, 137.30, you can still see that reject all the way back down. Right? If you reject earlier, then it's more likely to need to retest lower levels again. If Baba's just going to keep popping and then good earnings, okay, well, we're really trying to stay away from this as much as possible. At least I am, personally. But if we can react like this or anywhere higher than here, then it starts to lean in what direction? This direction. So what you're kind of hoping here for the structure is you see a big move, then you see that almost consolidate, then you see another one, and you're able to break out. Earnings might flip all this on its head, though. Earnings season, things can behave very sporadic. So overall, look for rejection soon. If you don't get rejection soon and you get a bad earnings, that's going to be pretty bad. It's running. It's just you have a lot of gaps beneath you that I think are unfinished business. Yeah, and if I pull over volatility, you're just going to see it's beelining for this gap. Look at this thing. Bam. Just saying, going. I will be looking for those reversal signals. As of right now, if you fill the gap, though, I think you'll wipe out divergence down there. So this means what? Volatility is actually pointing towards a trap to the upside this week in some way. Good luck and good night. But we are, well, it's still reaching up there. So yeah, volatility is kind of leaning towards maybe sideways. Maybe sideways until FOMC. Overall, pretty good data. Not seeing a sub 50, sub 45 services PMI. Not bad. IWM starting to pump it up. Pump it up. Yeah, we still got to be cautious with like gap fill and then drops again. This is the opportunity I want. Come on, get there. Get there before FOMC, and I'll be happy. If it does this before FOMC, I potentially have to sit on my hands even longer and then see if that thing dumps, see if we can turn back up. This is the next trade for me. Not these moves, this move. So I might be waiting a full like week and a half until I actually can make a decision for myself. Well, as you get closer to that gap fill for volatility, you kind of want to, not this gap fill, by the way. Not this gap fill, right? You know, as of right now, saying only up makes a lot of sense electric ways, okay? But sideways can take place, and people can place more bullish bets as we come down to fill what? Well, this gap right here. We really want to be paying attention to what does it look like here. And you're probably thinking, oh, this could make that divergence right now. And I believe I even said that because it really looked like, okay, we can. But this never really got oversold. I mean, if you're just, I know it's VIX, it's a reading. It doesn't really get oversold necessarily. But it can get burnt out. And then we might look for something like this. And then look at that, how that leads into what? Ooh, Wednesday morning. And then we'll have to see what FOMC has in store for us, right? So yeah, it looks pretty damn bullish, but sideways is definitely possible here. Sideways or up looks like the most possible at this moment. Like, even with the 2-hour pullback, it would still say sideways and up. DAX close to that all-time high. We did some good things with DAX. Wonder where Duranto's been lately. DAX going up and up and up and up. Very good. Whoa, DAX. I would look for that break above 23.5K maybe, and then, you know, look for the retest. Yeah, the next opportunity for DAX is going to be a higher low. That's what it's saying right now. Right, this is just crazy positive. So a higher low would be the most likely next opportunity. From the weekly perspective, if you take into weekly into perspective here, you're going, okay, well, if this is some kind of massive trap, then I'd be aware of like, oh, okay, this does that for a moment, and then it starts to fall down. But this is a weekly time frame, so don't expect it to take this long, right? It's more likely that you'll see kind of like wicks into here and stuff like that, and you're going to see this go bink, and then just curl right back down. This is getting overzealous for the DAX. Unless we're actually seeing like people rotate out completely out of the United States market. It's like, I think the DAX is going to go through some trouble soon. It already went through the trouble we expected. We expected it to continue, though. So that's very, very good. Look at volatility of volatility. Volatility of volatility, not dropping off as dramatically as VIX itself, but still looking like, hey, it's going to drop off for a moment here. GME trying to roll over on the daily, not good. Remember GME had those signals? Remember when we've been pointing it out for weeks and weeks and weeks? Now you've made a new low. You've shown direction. If you reject again, if you see a bounce and it rejects off of 27.13, I would be very aware of that. Actually, you could reject even higher. Let me find that point for you real quick. You did make a new high, which is just super surprising. That's a big ass trap. So you could reject from 27.50. If you reject from 27.50 again, it's looking like downside, like you're going to go fill the gap around $25. Yeah, that's what it seems like. I literally almost took a short on GME because I was like, this is just a great setup. Look at me over here saying shoulda, coulda, woulda, and almost. Silly Lucas. We don't say those things. We're being patient. Up, off. Up, off. Okay, give us the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start to reverse around. That would just be, gosh, I would just pretty much here. I'm thinking about doing a risk to reward, to be totally honest, if we get there. But we'll see. HGX actually showing positivity. That's good, but still holding all the reversal signals on the 30 minutes, suggesting the same thing we're talking about. 2-hour pullback. 2-hour pullback. HGX is saying the same thing. Dollar dropping off still, trying to come back right now, right? Trying to see that floor put in, see that dollar react up. We want to see the dollar go up. If you want to see good things for the SPY, you want the dollar to go up in this scenario. That's why we can't use it. You know, in the past, if you followed this channel, we would use during different kinds of markets. We'd say, oh, if the dollar's scaling up and the market's going up at the same time, someone's lying. That environment has completely changed. Just be aware of that. Don't be utilizing that right now. It is not the environment for it. 10-year still trying to turn back around, right? Still, 2-hour pullback looks likely. We'll see if this is changing in some way, but if this starts to take off, not going to be a good thing for the market. Maybe initially you see them go up together, but these are some of the lies that we pay attention to. They can go away. The most important thing is price action for what you're actually looking at, right? The price action for the SPY, price action for QQQ, your reasons for a trade. SPY 600 boys end of May. Let's go, Sammy. I'm down. That would have to have even more of a snapback, but hey, we're down for it. Glad to see that big smile in there, Sammy. Good icon. I like it. And who's got the Shiba Inu looking dog? Beto? You had 87K in your Weeble, but you started with 100. What you doing right now? Looking at everything that I did wrong, staying away from options and knowing that I can build a good amount of money off of 87K over time. Looking at my birth date, seeing what year I was born, and if I'm anywhere below 40 and I have 87K, I can put that into dividend stocks, work a regular job, and keep investing. Right? What am I doing now? I'm still sitting, I'm pulling a Warren Buffett, right? There's literally, if you have a decent job, maybe you don't like it, okay? Well, let companies be your friend and pick companies that are overall can last through hard times. This is why I'm mentioning Target and things like that as, potential there. I think Target might curl down on the daily chart. I'm invested in Target. I'm planning to keep Target for the next year at the least. You need to hear that. It's my parents' money. Even more so, if it's not your money, it's your parents' money. That is perfectly fine. Okay, I understand. Just note, don't treat it like free money, right? That is money that people worked very hard for, I assume. We would hope so, right? Maybe they worked really hard for that, so don't throw it away with options, something very, very risky, right? You could just sit back and look at some potential good opportunities, good prices, and look for discounts, right? If you were going to buy a car for 20 grand and then but you were like, I'm going to hold off. And then 6 months later, that same car is on a discount for 12,000. What decision would you potentially make? Do the same kind of thing with stocks. So I should not have it all in the margin account. I mean, having it in a margin account is potentially okay. It's just, using the margin and having it in a margin account are two different things. Yeah, if you can afford to do, I don't know what the situation is, but if it's for you, if your parents gave you the blessing, treat it like a blessing. Treat it like a gift. If your parents gave you a brand new phone, are you going to risk that phone by setting it down in the middle of the mall for a full day? Or are you going to keep that phone in your pocket? Yeah. Okay, good. Thoughts on SoFi? Once you reach out to those smaller ones and things like that, those, are potential risk, right? If you're talking about Safeways. But if you look at something like SoFi, there are times, where the fuck is my SoFi? There it is. If you look at things like SoFi, there are times to buy it. And so what I'm going to teach you about right here are times to buy it, right? We just talked about that car being 20,000. Okay. Well, now that car was 10,000. It was sub $10,000. If you really like SoFi, if you did your research into it, is that a good thing? Yeah. Do I want to put 100K? Do I want to put all 100K behind one investment? There's, people can diversify too much. I don't think it's a bad thing. You might say, I'm going to put, 50% of that into some dividend stocks that can be more so as, that have necessities behind it that people are always going to purchase. That's why we're mentioning things like Target and things like that. But for SoFi, the time to actually buy this bad boy was with the confirmation of divergence. If you want to utilize your skills, you can utilize the skills you learn in the course from just literally just for investing, and it will work great. It just takes more time, but guess what? You're probably going to make more money than anyone that's starting. If you started to try to invest now, I bet you money that you would have a higher probability to get rich in the next 20 years than the person who is constantly trying to day trade for 20 years. That's just how the percentages work, right? So where was your actual confirmation? Well, you could argue that confirmation was here. Positive bar from the previous, right? Boom. Daily divergence. That means a weekly can easily turn up. And if you're investing, you don't really care, right? You care if, your price point starts to get violated. But if you're someone who's saying, I want to hold this for 20 years, and you bought it here, that's way better than buying it here. If it went down to here, would you be able to buy more, right? That's how it would kind of go. But the weekly chart is very likely to curl up here for SoFi, which means your little investment down here towards 1150 could easily turn into $18. What is that from a percentage price point, right? We'll take the high of this wick and go, okay, if we just retest that high, you just made 54%. So if you put, say, an investment behind this for a full year and you're able to make 50% off of it, you just made 10 grand in a year. Say 20,000, 50%. Pretty safe, only 20% of the 100K. Okay. Investment. So if I see something really bad, I can react. So what's the bad thing if I want to react, right? Having skills is still a good thing, right? Is this daily confirming down? Okay, if this daily confirms down, it starts to add up to more risk. If the daily curls down like this and then curls back up, okay, then I just reacted and got a worse price. That's why kind of looking at investing and understanding like, hey, some people just invest in things they really like and they like the business model. They like all those things. Because if you keep reacting to every single little turn down, right? And then you're waiting for confirmation back up, guess what? Now you're at a worse price than over here. So do you see the investment game is more about time? And people say this all the time, time in the market, time in your investment, right? Because if you keep reacting like this, you're going to keep potentially getting a worse price if this thing just holds up better than you expect. So look for those. Now understand, SoFi is a tech, tech stocks are going to be risky, right? So look for something that's probably going to be around a long time, right? This is where you bring up the Teslas of the world. What are people doing in here? Maybe accumulating? What is this discount? Well, if you were paying $20,000 for a Tesla and then it went all the way down to here, now that Tesla is only about $9,500, $9,400. I don't get it, right? If the Switch, the new Xbox, the Switch, something like that you really like, something you really like goes on discount and it's 56% off. I mean, I'm not saying Tesla's a good buy, a good sell, a good whatever. I'm just saying, hey, did you research into the company and are you investing in this company for the long haul? A lot of people take that into consideration with GME and the good that GME's been able to produce, right? Because GME keeps seeing these crazy things up to here, right? They keep seeing these crazy things up to here. Is GME probably fair price, what, like 35? So it's at 25 now. Okay, so, that's the game that people are playing over here overall. They're treating it like an investment. I think that's what people are doing. That's why they're holding on to it still. Yeah, sure, they hope a big moment comes. They think that would be a plus. The best way to look at something like GME is the same way you look at an investment. Hey, I like what the business is doing. Hey, they're back to having a big load of cash. Hey, they're closing down stores because they're closing down non-profitable stores. Okay, hey, they're trying to change their business model. Hey, they're buying Bitcoin. Right? See what these things mean to you. Tell relying on other people and to make your decisions, you can miss out. Just look at what it means to you. And maybe it means, hey, maybe risk management is a big thing, and maybe I'm not going to put 100K behind GME, but I might buy 5. I might buy 5, right? I might buy 10. And if that's able to make, another 10 grand, if it's able to double in the next 10 years, is that successful? I would say yes. That's how it works. And guess what? If that pops off, like people are saying, to potentially, I have 129 marked off, but if it pops off to 129, hey, you just made 40, 50. It's great. Just, you look at these things as investments, it's a lot different. Maybe you want to go into something that you see as, valuable that you use every day. Okay, you're using YouTube right now. You're using YouTube right now. Now, do you see your skills coming to work here? Do you see your skills being able to show you how some potential thing could line up to, something bad could come in September? Left, head, right shoulder. If I don't see this, I don't need to react, right? You're seeing it, but you're on YouTube right now. You're using it. Do you use it every day? Okay, so if YouTube at 166, right, say right now, it's on a discount of what? What, 20%? 20% off. Okay, awesome. They just posted great things with advertisers. Awesome. If this got up to a price point about 193, okay, then my money would grow over the next 6 months to about what? 16%. So 20K, $1,600, or sorry, $3,200. Very, very nice. It's a good investment. And look, that one might be over pretty quick. We'll see. But if you don't see reversal signal in here, what are you doing? Well, maybe you're just holding for the long haul. Guess what? Google pays dividends. And if you bought it, with the environment you're in, maybe you only put 20K to work. And then you say, I'm going to buy it here. If it goes up to here, I know there's risk. So maybe I'm going to sell half and I'll keep half. And then if it drops down to lower prices, you just go, oh, sick. I got cheaper than here. I got cheaper than here, cheaper than here, cheaper than here. And now I'm getting 2022 lows. Now I'm getting maybe even COVID lows. It's an extreme discount. The times where you look at buying stuff is when everyone's absolutely losing their mind and no one wants to take on the project. The time that you sell your house is when no one wants to sell their house. The time when you buy a house is when no one wants to buy a house. Put it very simply. So the time when to say buy the SPY is when what? No one wants to buy the SPY, except for the few people that know something that you don't. No one wants to buy the SPY, but you hear about the money pumping. No one wants to buy the SPY in 2018. No one wanted to buy the SPY at the bottom of the 2008. Nobody. No one saw a way for it to come back. Now, pay attention if the system changes, because if the system changes, that's kind of a big deal. It kind of matters to you, right? It kind of matters if they're going to keep money pumping or not. Or if I'm averaging down, right? People talk about averaging down all the time. But this is why I like dividend stuff, right? As far as investment goes. Because even if you're averaging down, you can get paid that dividend. That gives you money to still buy at lower prices, right? Especially with something like 87 or 100K. You can make 6% a year with certain stocks. Maybe even like Target. I think Target has one of 4 something, 4.6. Okay, awesome. Cool. That means whatever price Target is at, well, I'll make about 4.6%. So just in a year with Target, I could make $4,600 off of 100K. And if I make $4,600, I can buy more shares. You know what that's starting? Whether this goes up or down or all around or wherever it wants to go, you know what that's starting? Exponential growth. Do you know how exponential growth works? It starts off like this. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like the wage gap that started in 1971 that we're really trying to tackle right now, right? Why did rich people get really rich? Well, because of exponential growth. More companies started to ship those jobs overseas. More companies ship those jobs overseas. More companies started to ship those jobs overseas until you're pretty much vertical. That's why you can look at the SPY and you can zoom out. You can go to a weekly, you can zoom out, and what do you see? You see what? Flat, flat, slightly up, slightly up, slightly up, slightly up, and then we see a correction, and then it just goes bam, straight up. Right? It's exponential growth. Look at exponential growth with dividends. Look at dividend calculators and things like that. It'll give you your exponential growth. And this is why I say do it with companies that I'm not even mentioning really tech stocks, right? Growth is a secondary thing. You're just looking for the dividends. With a company that is very, very trustworthy, which usually I would say a trustworthy stock sells necessities. Toilet paper, right? Everyone reacts about toilet paper all the time. Who sells toilet paper then? Because whenever people are going to freak out, toilet paper is going to see some big jump ups in sales. Oh, Sebastian, I just saw that at the top there. Sorry, I saw you say was a few minutes away. We did just look at Target. As far as Target goes, a daily divergence could form at the lows, but it's already confirmed daily divergence, so you're kind of looking at a triple one. Hey, if a triple divergence forms there, you know what I'm doing? I'm buying more Target. If Target goes down and makes a daily divergence, and I see that price even touched, because it is an investment, I don't have to care if there's confirmation. Because maybe I want to hold on to that for 20 years. Yeah, long. So if you look at Target, just to show you guys, daily time frame, 2-hour divergence up there. We already showed that off, but 2-hour divergence is there. So if this is going to see a mean drop, it's still negative. So that tells me what? Well, this could all just be bottling up to do this. And then if I see that, bam, I go, yes, $90. Okay, I bought it 95, right? I bought it like 95. Actually, I think I bought a little higher. I think it was like 96. Let me check. Let's see where I got it. Of course, I got to log in again. 97.50. 97.50, right? I bought at what you would call a top. But why? Remember when I bought this, I was on stream. Remember when I bought this? I said, I don't care what it looks like in the 2-hour time frame. I don't care. I care what it looks like from the weekly and daily perspective. It looks really good. If it drops lower on the daily time frame, I still don't care. I will buy more. Just because of that little D down there. If this didn't have that D down there, and it was a tech stock, not a necessity stock, if it was something something like a SoFi, I'd probably be reacting. And then I'd make sure that confirmation comes in, because that's a little bit riskier. So if it goes down to here, pretty much if it goes down and tests this low again of 87, I'm going to double the position, and then I'll be cost averaged into the middle-ish. If I do the same price amount, might even be better. Just make sure if you're saying, hey, I'm invested for the long term, make sure it's actually long term. Make sure you're prepared for long term. And make sure you're prepared for seeing some ugly things. Market's going to show you some ugly things. Look at 2020. Look at 2018. Look at 2008. You're going to see ugly things. But the people who have held through those ugly things have benefited the most. Right? Read the Psychology of Money. Read the Psychology of Money. They talk about Warren Buffett. Long term means 10 to 15 years. Perfect. That is actually long term. Now, you might be going, okay, but I know we're heading into a cycle top. You might have more skills than other people, right? Right? So look for that market top from what? The SPY and the QQQs. But we're forming a top still. And this has extended multiple times. So if you sell every single time you see that thing, just know you're taking your money out of it. You're taking your investment out. This is why I talk about, sometimes just selling half the investment. I know I was sitting in heavy amounts of cash, but like still, sometimes selling half the investment's a good thing. Because you always have some exposure and you can always grow those dividends. Or maybe you calculate how much you made with dividends and just say, hey, I'm just going to risk free all my dividend money. So, and Mr. Josh was saying, I don't buy anything long unless the VIX is under 20. I want to show you something real quick. I'll show you something. I'll show you a big problem with that. There's a big problem with that. Let's go to here. Let's go all the way to 2020. Okay, 2020. 2020 bottomed at a price point, March 23rd. Now let's look at when volatility bottomed from March 23rd. Or when volatility crossed 20 from March 23rd. I apologize. Gotta find 2020. March 23rd. Okay. So I want you to realize what you just said. I don't buy things unless it's below 20. I don't long things. Maybe you're talking about an option. I'm talking more about investing. If you're not trying to make these kinds of decisions, you miss out on what? Everything. Literally everything. If you're waiting to go sub 20 before buying, let's just say you waited for the first moment you go sub 20, okay? Let's say best case, November 2020, the 27th. The SPY had already grown how much? What did I say? November 27th? May, June, July, August, September, October, November 27th. Right here. Right? So from the low, and I'm not saying you're going to catch the exact low, but I just want to put this in your perspective here. You missed out on 66%. 66% with that one simple rule. And that's not even the time where you actually were remaining below 20. So from an investment perspective, and I know you're probably talking about the more an option perspective, and I get that, but I just wanted to point this out to people who understand. Still buying when things look bloody as hell can be a great long-term decision. It might not be good right away, right? But look at what you missed out on. Instead of just looking at maybe saying, I don't want to catch the exact low, but I'll wait for a daily higher low. Okay, right there. Okay, maybe 300. Okay, 20%. You can't be making decisions just based on one thing, especially in times where you're going through something pretty drastic. Because that would mean that you're still not buying this at all right now, which means what? You've already missed out on potentially this. Who's to say that this isn't going to go like that? Okay, then you just missed out on 20% move, right? This is why we try to teach the skills. 30-minute divergence, 2-hour higher low, boom to the upside, 1 trade here, 2 trades here. Long term, it goes great buying opportunity, good base. If the daily curls down, not good anymore, right? If the daily curls down, we could see something terrible. We could see this as the most likely scenario, and then we curl up, and then that might be the start of some kind of bull run. But if you're already not in and it goes like this, and then goes like this and goes like this, well, you're just saying, okay, well, pretty much it's like if you see a 5% moment, all right, investing's always on the table. This is why I was very quick to just be like, oh, I like Target. Someone brought up Target. I go, yeah, it looks really good from the investment perspective. I'm buying it. It doesn't have to be this complex thing, right? It can be, that's a cheap price. I like that company. That's literally all that needs to be really discussed. Something that makes you make a decision. How you read into that decision, how you make those decisions is where me and you might differ a lot, right? You might not want to get into necessities because you want to make money faster on growth. I want to invest in necessities because I see how the world is right now. I see the shifts that are happening with the economy, and I go, this isn't the best recipe for success. This is a recipe for potential disaster. In disaster, what is very good? Necessities. Do people still need water when things are bad? Do people still need food when things are bad? If things aren't going to be bad, if things remain still just fine and dandy and everything's butterflies from here on out and everyone, the debt just goes away magically and everything magically subsides, what are people still going to do? They're still going to drink water. They are still going to buy clothing, cheap clothing maybe, and then they are still going to do what? Buy food. So you can see how my decision making, I can really explain it to you very simply, very quickly. And I don't need to sit there and linger on price as long as I know I'm thinking, like as long as to me, I'm getting a good one. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for the 199. Let's see here real quick. Sebastian asking about Amazon for a moment too. Amazon, as of right now, not reaching up to the gap just yet. You've made a new low. Okay. So we've made a new low, which really points me towards here. But we'll see how the market reacts over the next couple, pretty much by the end of the day. And yes, Richard, we will be on later today. Yes, Richard, we will be on later today. But I would just say, if one last thing about investing is if you're starting with 100K, that's a great base. You don't need to reach out. You could use 10K to go buy a few of those little stocks that might pop off, but you just have so much, like you're starting off at such a better point than a lot of younger people. If you have 100K to start out, you really are. Like, right, say thank you and just say, I'm going to, you don't have to assume that risk. If you're starting with 10K investing, you might assume more risk, than someone who's starting with 100K. And that's just the thing. But technically at 100K, you could assume, say, like 10% of risk and still do that, but do 90% of something that like more investments that are proven to be good companies over time. Yeah, sorry about that, Richard. Kind of on an investment rant, my bad. It is 10:30, so Richard, I do have to hop off, but we will be live later today, right here on YouTube, okay? So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you have those notifications on, and we will be back later on today. For the time being, for something like Amazon, if the 30 minutes still crosses up, hey, we haven't tested this center point yet, so leave that on the table, right? This is still positive, but for the time being, you lost the 5, you're holding that as resistance right now. So really be paying attention, like 2 hours just confirmed. So more likely the bigger time frames are going to take over and you're just going to fill that gap at the least to the downside. Now, if you're not making this like a new significant low, then technically, what do you have? You have a high, or I'm sorry, you have a low, you have a high, you have a higher low, you have what? A higher high. So if this is not being completely taken out and seeing resistance to form that like this, then you could easily just go like this and curl right back up. Okay, this is still a what? A positive trend. Now you have some weakness here that is suggesting watch out if this low is broken, because we could start a downtrend in some way. But for the time being, you have a low, a higher low, and a higher high on the 2-hour scale. That is a very good thing. On the 30-minute, we could do whatever we want to do, get down to this level, but if that 2-hour curls up, you're probably getting up to test something like 200. So we'll see. But reactionary trading here, just very, very good, right? We try to just more so think into the future, formulate some kind of plan for an actual opportunity. And then if that opportunity shows up, you know, we look for our confirmations. That's how we like to do it, right? 2-hour hasn't confirmed down even for the SPY yet, so we'll watch. I still think the best way to head higher is to see that trap before FOMC, see that thing start to curl back up. I think that'd be great. And then more so set a trap maybe up here next week. We'll see. The reason for that shift is because of this, right? We saw it able to break above the center point of the resistances that we are in, of the liquidity that we are in. So we'll be paying attention. Thank you guys for joining today. Really appreciate it. We will be live later on today, so make sure you join us for that. And other than that, guys, make sure to be trading like water, right? We trade like water if you're doing options, trade like water. If you're investing, it just says, hey, kind of pick a good stream and ride that bad boy, right? If you're investing, you kind of have a raft. You kind of have a raft with a good base, a good border around you. If you get a good price and you say, hey, I can last through these bumps, right? I have a light for if we go into a cave for a little bit, right? So investing is a different story. When we say trade like water, it more so than not is going to mean, hey, towards options and reacting. So thank you guys. Have a great day. We've talked about a lot. You can use your skills for investing that you learn from the full technical analysis course, just like you do for options. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Peace. And Janine, I think I said that right, but Miss Butterfly, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being subscribed. We'll see you guys later at the close. Peace out.